I walk in the door and I said, Dad, I crashed your car and it's a write-off. He's like, is everybody okay? I was like, yeah, everybody's okay. He's like, oh, you must be tired. He's like, you know what, son? We're going to get another car. And the next time, I just want you to be more careful. I was like, what? I was like, next time? What do you mean by next time? I couldn't believe it. He stayed poised. He was prepared to love me because that was his posture. I'm going to love my son no matter what happens. When he comes home, I am going to love him. And honestly, I was raised a Christian my entire life, but I did not fully understand Christianity and the love of Christ until I saw that in my dad. When I saw my dad love me when I did not deserve it, all the songs that were just songs before now became meaningful. I am loved when I don't deserve it. I am forgiven when I don't deserve it. And from that moment, that was it for me in my life.
What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec Lace. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood. Today's guest on the podcast is the first class father of the Onyx family. Mirthell joins me here on the show. Now, the Onyx family, they have inspired millions of people all over the globe. Their YouTube channel has over 6 million subscribers with 3 billion views worldwide. It's a big honor to have them on the podcast today, so get down there, smack the subscribe button, tap the like, and let's jump into it right now with the father of the Onyx family, Mirthell, right here on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me now, first class father, Mirthell. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you, Alex. That's quite an introduction. First class. Wow.
That's what it's all about right here. Let's start right there. How many kids do you have and how old are they?
So I have 4 children. My oldest is 21. The second is 20. The third is in a month going to be 18. And the youngest is 14. And that's 3 girls and 1 boy. The boy is the 14-year-old.
Wow. Yeah, I got the exact reverse of you. I got 4 kids. We got 3 boys, then got the girl on the final try there. So
there you go.
If we didn't get her on 4, we'd have 5 by now. But we got her, and that's where we.
That's it.
Where we ended the show. Yeah. So,
right.
If you could, Mirthell, please just take a second here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
Okay. So I'm a media specialist right now. We have Onyx Star Media, and we do things from mainstream. We have a cartoon right now out on Amazon Prime. We partnered with Pocket Watch on that. We also have a YouTube channel, which we're mostly known for our YouTube, and that's Onyx Family and my children, Onyx Kids. That has 3.5 billion worldwide views and our subscribers of about 6 million. But prior to YouTube, I was an ordained minister, and I was a marriage and family therapist with my master's in marriage and family therapy.
Yeah, what an incredible ride you've had here so far, Mirthell. And then what about how old were you then when you first became a father, and how did becoming a dad kind of change your perspective on life?
So I must have been about 24 when I first became a father. What an amazing experience. Just realizing and just recognizing the awesome responsibility that I've brought a life into this world, and I have the responsibility now of taking care of this child. And I think that us as men, the temptation is to think, okay, I got to provide and I got to protect. And while those are roles that, I would never abdicate, what about the emotional well-being of a child? And when, in my studies, when I was doing my master's in marriage and family therapy, I realized through scientific study that the role of the father is extremely important in the well-being, social well-being, psychological, and in every way, to be able to bond with your father. So it's not just him just bringing home the bacon, bonding with him.
Yeah, well said. I stress on this show quite often that we have a fatherless crisis going on in our country. We have so many kids are growing up without a father in the home. And I think a lot of that has become somehow our society or our culture has made it seem acceptable for men to walk away from these responsibilities. Like, you know what, they use other people as a justification. Well, this person did it, I can do it too. And I think really the fatherless problem that we have is really having a horrible impact on our society. So I love what you bring to the table here with all of this. And I wish that we could just strengthen our family units here. I think if we did that, most of the problems we see in our country would really start to dissolve quickly.
Absolutely. And, strengthening the family unit is one thing, but there are some things that we probably will never be able to resolve completely, like adult problems and the challenges that we have when we're in relationships. Maybe those are very challenging and we do our best. But I think a father can always be a father. I think a father, no matter what his circumstances, he can always be a father. I have some really great friends who are single parents right now, not by choice necessarily, but they are stepping up and making sure that their children know that all the adult problems, I love you.
Yeah, good stuff. And I spoke with Michael Irvin at the Super Bowl last year about this, and he was really talk passionately about it, saying, he doesn't condone divorce, but if you got to divorce your wife, but never ever divorce your kids, and you got to stay on your post, and we definitely need that to become cool, or that to become the normal thing for men to do.
Absolutely. I think what marriage does is marriage augments it and makes it easier for us to just be a parent. Staying together, working, utilizing each other's skills and working together, that makes the task easy. But the task should never be abdicated. We're once a parent, always a parent. I mean, that's always our child. I mean, if I'm in my 90s and my child is in his 80s, he's still going to be my buddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, right on with that. Yeah, and I make it a point, too, sometimes to say I don't host a marriage show here. This isn't a relationship show. This is strictly a fatherhood show. I know that there's so much that goes into it. I bring a lot of single dads on here, divorced dads, whatever it may be. And I'm not to claim I'm married myself for 16 years, and I wouldn't lie and say it's been an easy journey. So it's definitely there's definitely planning, there's definitely learning and a process that goes into it. But just to pull it back into you here a bit, then, as a dad, what would you say were some of the top values that you hope to instill in your kids as they grow up?
Oh, man. Well, I would say really, truly believing, having a strong sense of belief, faith. So, whether that is to say, I am meaningful, I am purposeful, I'm not here by accident, I am here by design, and there's certain qualities and skills within me that need to come out in order to contribute to the world in a very positive way. I see Matthew behind you, and when I read his book and I did an interview with him over his book, we dealt with a concept that really just kind of blew my mind. He talked about arrows and targets, and he said that the way he describes it is that he is much like a target as opposed to an arrow. So an arrow, we take it and we draw the arrow back, and then we aim at our goals in life, and we aim at what we want, and then we go for it. And we have one shot to get that target, right? We got one shot. But when you're a target, you're drawing opportunity to yourself. I'm not sure if you're hearing the echo.
No, I think you got a thing there. Just start that again where he says you got one shot with the arrow and take it from there.
Okay. So you got one shot with that arrow, and a lot of us have a lot of anxiety over that, especially as dads, because we're just like, I gotta launch my kid, and I got one shot, and he gotta get into this college, and he gotta get this job. And the way that it was described, I resonate with what Matthew was saying, is that we are more like, or we should look at ourselves more like the target, because when you're the target, opportunities continue to come to you. You're not thinking that I got to get here. You're drawing these things to you. And it reminds me of a time where I was a pastor before YouTube. This is the time where I'm struggling. This is the struggle life. This is where I can't put gas in my car. I'm losing my house. All sorts of things are happening because I just can't keep up with all of the responsibilities of life. And I remember coming back from prayer meeting, and I'm driving in the car, driving my kids back from prayer meeting, and we homeschool our kids. So I'm feeling the pressure, like I'm homeschooling them. Like, am I really teaching them the good concepts of math and English? What am I doing, Lord? And I put on SpongeBob movie, and or I put on like the Wild Thornberries, and I'm putting on all their favorite cartoons, getting them pizza because I'm feeling dad guilt. There is such a thing sometimes. I know mom guilt is popular, and I'm just talking. To God, and just saying, hey, I don't know, what's gonna happen. And as life went on, I now find myself in a situation where I'm no longer in that situation. And my children are sitting at the table with the head of, who was the head of Nickelodeon, who was the producer of SpongeBob. Doreen Spicer, who is the producer of The Proud Family. These are cartoons that my kids would love and love. And my kids are sitting at the table and they're writing their own cartoon, which is sold to Amazon Prime. Second season is coming up in fall. And they're working with these great people that they used to watch. And that's what I'm saying. It's like there's something inert that was placed in us. There's giftedness. And what I would love for my children is to always understand their value. And don't always feel like, I got to get this opportunity. Let it come to you. Let it come to you. Just honor your values that has been instilled in you. It will come.
Yeah, very well said. And I can testify to that myself. I'm a recovering alcoholic and an addict myself. And part of my story is at one time in my life, I got a lifetime ban from Giant Stadium. And then fast forward that, the last 3 years, the NFL has invited me to come to the Super Bowl for Media Day to interview the players and coaches about fatherhood and family life. So it's been that type of turnaround for myself as well. And I'm a person that keeps God first. I'm a very faith-based person as well. And when that shift happened with me, it opened up the door for a lot of the opportunities to speak with a lot of the guys you see behind me. And it opened up the door for a lot of other opportunities. So I'm right there with you. That's amazing. So you were the guy that was streaking naked. Got you. not quite, but it's almost as bad. But and then another one I'd like to ask you here, Mirthell, too, is what type of disciplinarian are you as a dad with the kids, and is that different than the discipline style that you grew up with? So that's an interesting question. So my dad, he's Jamaican. My mom and dad are Jamaican, and I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. So in the Jamaican culture, I think they've progressed a bit, but traditionally spankings and harsh punishment is not unusual, to the point where it borders on abuse. And that was a kind of grandfather I had with my father. Verbal affirmation was not there. Corporal punishment to the point where it could be abusive was definitely there. And so my dad, when he had me, and I think what fatherhood is basically passing on values and passing on rights. My dad had to fought against that to the point where he never spanked me except for once, just once. And what he did, I remember I set a bush on fire. We were living in Chicago, and I set a bush on fire, and the bush blew up, and there was apartment buildings around, and it could have taken out the whole thing. And my dad said, son, I've never spanked you before, but I feel like I need to communicate to you how serious this thing is that you did. And he says, it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you more than it hurts me. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that one before from other people, But at the end of it all, I can remember tears flowing down someone's face, but it wasn't mine. It was my dad. I mean, he was crying. He didn't want to do it, but he knew he had to do something. And I got it. I was loved. And so I think the biggest thing that us as dads need to do is make sure our children know that they're loved and set good boundaries. And when a father is in the child's life the way my dad was in my life, where I knew I was loved and he set good boundaries and he made sure he set boundaries, I think you're going to be okay and your kid is going to be okay. Yeah, well said, Mirthell. And you know what? That's one of the things I think is the biggest differences about dads today as opposed to back in the day. My father had me when he was 50 years old. So he was born in 1930. So he was already, he had a much different style of discipline. But it wasn't like I definitely surpassed the amount of times my dad told me I love you already to my kids. And not that my dad didn't love me. It's just that it wasn't the way that they commonly expressed it. And even when I do it with my kids, it's the handful of times that I've had to spank them, I've always had that feeling, like you said, like that look in your father's eyes. Like, I don't understand how my father could do it. Like, I never understood how you could detach yourself. And I don't know, because he didn't express himself this way. Maybe he was feeling that way as well. But and it's a different discipline style for you, all the four kids. For some of them, just a threat of a spank is enough to set them straight. One you could spank them all day long. It ain't gonna make a difference. You got to find another way. So in my rebellious years, when I was around 17, 18. No, it was more 18. I remember going to this club, and after the club, I was going back home with my friends, and those were the days where I was experimenting. I was not a thug. I was a pastor's kid. I was just pretending to, be something I was not. And but we were driving, and I'm racing. I have the music pumping, and we're just having a really great time coming back from this club, dropping off my friends, and it's raining, and the car spins out of control, and it's a write-off.
My dad is a minister, and so the next day is his big day, and he has to have the car. And my mom is a nurse, and he has to drop her off and then go to church and go to all his responsibilities. No car. Car is done. It's a write-off. So I hitch a ride with a band that is driving down some country back Canadian road, and it brings me back into Toronto, and I get in the house and I tell my dad, and this is the moment now. This is the moment of reckoning. Your car is a write-off. Sorry, Dad. I walk in the door and I said, Dad, I crashed your car and it's a write-off. He's like, is everybody okay? I was like, yeah, everybody's okay. He's like, oh, you must be tired. He's like, you know what, son? We're going to get another car. And the next time, I just want you to be more careful. I was like, what? I was like, next time? What do you mean by next time? I couldn't believe it because, I mean, he's still my father. He still has, he's still a human being. And in the Jamaican culture, you push a person far enough and you're going to get something. I mean, even when I blew up the fire, I got something. I thought at least he'd be like, why no me have to take your hand and, just like get into his, his swag or whatever. But no, he stayed poised. He was prepared to love me because that was his posture. I'm going to love my son no matter what happens. When he comes home, I am going to love him. And honestly, I was raised a Christian my entire life, but I did not fully understand Christianity and the love of Christ until I saw that in my dad. When I saw my dad love me when I did not deserve it, all the songs that were just songs before now became meaningful. I am loved when I don't deserve it. I am forgiven when I don't deserve it. And from that moment, that was it for me in my life. My life changed around. I went from taking drugs and doing drugs with my friends and dropping out of high school. I ended up going to university, getting straight A's, some B's, honor roll every year, went on to get 2-3 degrees. My parents would have never dreamed that I would be that kind of child. But love established that.
Yeah, wow, what an incredible testimonial there, Mirthell. And I would love to ask you too, like, you just said you went to college and did all these things. What was the genesis of the YouTube channel? What was actually the brainchild behind this? How did this actually come about? What was the initial push to get this YouTube channel started and all the rest with the Onyx family?
So as I said, I had actually met my wife. She was 18 when I met her, and I got married to her that same year. I was 23. So we met in 1 year in university. She was in pre-med, and then we got married that same year. And then I graduated before her, and so she followed me into a life of ministry. She didn't know what she was getting herself into. She didn't know the sacrifice. I'm not a part of a denomination that is like the high rollers where they're rolling up in a plane. Like it's just telling the word of God and get whatever you get. So my salary was very humble, but I had now we have about 4 children. And so fast forwarding the story, we're struggling. She could not maintain the med school because she was pregnant and everything 4 times over. So she figured, okay, maybe I'll be a nurse. And so she went to nursing school. So while she's in nursing school, I'm working. Then she graduates eventually and she becomes a nurse practitioner. But the whole time I'm struggling with this pastor's salary, and we're getting more and more and more in debt. So she gets an opportunity from the doctors in Canada. They said, you're American and you really are good with your patients. Can you start a medical company in Florida? She's like, honey, I've followed you for 17 years. Can you please, come along with me or whatever? And we went through this discussion back and forth. Long story short, I ended up leaving ministry and leaving my family practice. I'm Canadian, so I can't work in the States. So for a time period, we're in Florida. I'm not working, and my wife is the breadwinner, and she's doing everything. But we did not foresee that her being the only American would have worked out with the company because the others were Canadian, and there's just some legal loopholes having Canadians owning a medical company. She had to become the president, all sorts of stuff. Anyhow, at the end of the day, there was more challenges than there was rewards. And she said to me, hun, I think I want to transition to do something else. And I was just like, I left my passion for medical company, not anything else. And she's like, I understand. If I don't make any money, then I'll stick in it until I do. Then she said, I'm thinking about YouTube. I was like, okay, tell me about it. She tells me us about it. We're like, okay, let's go. We started fasting and praying because I just knew I came out here to be a YouTuber, to stick M&Ms up my nose when I used to help society. This is crazy. But we prayed and fasted, and in 1 month, we got so many views and we made so much money, we were able to pay off our debt. We've never seen that lump sum in 1 month. And the following month, and the following month, and it just kept on growing and bigger and bigger. And I was just like, this is phenomenal. And then eventually I started realizing, wait, I have an audience. I can actually utilize this space to be able to sort of like inspire others to as a pick-me-up. And so we came up with the mission: tell the story, feed the soul, make them laugh, heal the heart. And so non-political, non-religious, any agendas, just simply make people laugh, tell a story that they can relate to, and inspire them to be better. And that's it. And that's kind of the story.
Yeah, incredible formula, man. I love that. And it's a shame that we have so many negative things. Social media, it can be used for such good and used for such horrible things. So it's like, it's awesome to see people like yourself, like your family out there inspiring others to be better. I mean, I think we definitely need more of that. And how do you kind of deal? One of the things I know is a problem is a lot of the trolls and a lot of the negative comments. Do you get any of that on the channel? How do your kids kind of, you keep them away from those comments? How do you kind of handle the trolls or those naysayers that you get out there?
So my wife, she's brilliant. First of all, I call her the head and I'm the heart. She's just a brilliant woman. She knows what she's doing. And from the very beginning, she said, we're not looking at any comments. Just like, we're not doing it. Do you have access to Seinfeld? Did you have access to, the people from The Office? No, we watched it. We laughed. That's it. You don't know anything unless the tabloids come in their way. And so we just don't read any comments at all.
Yeah, very cool. And what about your plans for the future here for it? What's coming next for you guys? You guys got any big plans or goals in the future for yourselves?
So right now, our family, we've had some really incredible opportunities. Last year, unsuspected to us, we were able to go from interviewing Dr. Fauci to going to the White House inauguration and being a part of that, asked by the Biden team. So we've had some really unique opportunities, and those things just keep on coming up for us. So we've been partnering with several different talk shows to do different talk shows. But the projects that we have right now is a cartoon. Like I said, we're in our second season, and that's going to be dropping, and it's on Amazon Prime. It's called Onyx Monster Mystery. And it's just a funny, quirky cartoon, somewhat like how, Scooby-Doo. I remember growing up, I grew up in a very traditional setting, so I was not really allowed to watch like Scooby-Doo, but I'd sneak and watch it. And it's sort of like, there's never really a monster. There's always an explanation, and I'm trying to tell my parents, like, there is an explanation. It's not really a monster, it's not a demon. And so our cartoon is kind of similar like that. It's like we're saving monsters and we're putting them on the island. And the analogy I like to make is sort of like we misunderstand each other every day. It's like everyone is like to point fingers at that person and say, you know what? You're a this. Yeah, because I know you don't know the person. How are you going to call them something you don't know who they are? And we're pointing fingers and we're judging each other and everybody. And there's this us and them mentality. When you really stop and think about it, we are all one. We're we. And so that's the concept, sort of like get to know someone else's story. Get to know other people for who they are. Yeah, they're human beings. So, of course, there's a good side and a bad side. But, hey, aren't there a good side and a bad side to you? So let's humanize one another. And even I grew up on the concept of forgiveness, that even if it's an enemy, even if it's the person that's proven itself, it's like I've learned to love my enemies. Do good to them that persecute you. Pray for them. Shower them with love. I mean, there is a concept. And when we humanize one another, even if we have these ideas of the us and the them, and then stop making everybody a monster. Get to know their story. And that's what we do. We go around and we save these monsters, and then we find behind the story of why Bigfoot was feared, or the Sasquatch, or, the boogeyman under the bed. Like, we have all sorts of different themes. And the question is what's their story? Because when we know a person's story, it's not us and them, it's we. It's no longer pitting us against each other.
Yeah, I love that. That's a big part of what I try to do on this show. I bring dads from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all faiths, all ethnicities. And you know what? We're at the end of the day, we're all after the same thing, man. We all want our kids to be happy, to be healthy, to be successful. We don't want to see our kids sad, hurt, upset. So at the end of the day, we're all after the same thing here. We're much more alike than we are different. So, and I think fatherhood connects us a lot in that same way, especially when we see a dad out there in the store, something struggling with his kid or whatever it is. We can empathize because we know exactly what he's going through, and we can either offer to help or we can offer to ignore. And a lot of too often we see that where people are afraid to get involved in a positive way, and it could just say, hey, hurry up and get done with this so I can get up there, instead of taking the 1 minute to just say, hey, maybe I could do something here to help this situation and make the line move quicker, or something like that.
You said it well. We tend to look at the worst of people because all of us have faults, instead of looking at the best of people, because there's always a better side to somebody. And when we humanize one another, we can humanize the least of them. So I've been taught that, how we treat the least of them is important. So if we humanize the least of them, then even the greatest, let's not demonize the greatest of them. Let's make sure that we're balanced and we're making sure that we're treating everyone like a human being.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, I don't know where you are there, but like over here in Jersey, like road rage is one of those things, and people will just start cursing at you for no reason at a red light, and the same person you're cursing at will hold the door open for you at Dunkin' Donuts. Like, we have no idea who it even is that we're yelling at,
Absolutely.
Well,
I heard a little Italian coming out of you. I don't know. Is there any?
No, I'm Irish, German. I'm a couple other things, but mostly it could be just a little Jersey coming out.
Maybe the Jersey accent coming out, right?
Well, listen, last thing I want to hit you here, Mirthell. I'd love to ask all the dads that get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
Just trust that you're gonna be okay. There's, you could have these great expectations for yourself, but just trust that everything will be okay. Just really just be yourself and connect with your children. Your children are I've seen kids, and this is the message I want to tell some dad, because there's some dad out there that is doing awesome and he's probably feeling like he's not doing awesome. And then there's a dad that's probably not doing so awesome. And this truly is a genuine message. I have worked with so many families as a therapist, and one of the common denominators is the resiliency of children. Children are very resilient, and they're very forgiving naturally, especially of their dads and their moms. They're always ready to give you a second chance, always. If you don't take that for granted, and you just trust that you got the perfect individual right in front of you, like an empty canvas, you get to, if you're genuine with your child is going to be just fine. Just connect with them, because they need it. Fathers are needed. It's essential. It's almost like, air, water. Fathers are essential. You don't have to be perfect, because your child is very resilient. I've seen people that have been severely abused still able to forgive their parent, forgive their father, abandoned completely, and there's still this yearning and this urge within them. Where's my dad? I would give him another chance. That's how children are. So don't get yourself stuck in shame cycles of, I didn't do it, and then I'll get it together, then I'll go to them. No, just humble yourself before your child. Your child loves you, and they'll give you a second chance. You may have to dig yourself out of a tough spot, but you'll be okay.
Yeah, very well said. I love the message. This has been an awesome experience for me. I got to say, you're a first-class father all the way, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
Hey, thank you, Alex. You take care.